Explosions are ripping through Dubai. American tourists are huddled in hotel lobbies, some in tears, some clinging to complete strangers. Flights are being canceled one after another. And in the middle of all this chaos, a woman from California receives a message that stops her cold. Her husband is in the hospital, his heart is failing, and he needs open-heart surgery within hours. She is thousands of miles away. She is trapped. And the bombs keep falling. This is the story of Judith Wilson, 57 years old, a software sales executive from Walnut Creek, California. A story that begins as a routine business trip to Dubai and collapses within hours into a nightmare with two faces, war on one side and the possible death of the person she loves most on the other. Judith has been in Dubai for a few days when everything explodes, literally. It's a Saturday night. She's at the Atlantis Hotel with colleagues. The evening is relaxed, the conversation easy, and then without warning, massive detonations tear through the air. Not one, not two, dozens. Deep, thunderous explosions that shake the walls and cut conversations dead mid-sentence. These are the Iranian strikes. Iran has launched a military operation. Dubai, one of the most cosmopolitan and supposedly secure cities on the planet, finds itself at the center of a regional conflict it thought was far away. Within minutes, social media erupts. Alerts flood every phone in the room. And across the grand hotels of the city, tourists, Americans, Europeans, Asians begin to understand that they may not be going home anytime soon. At the JW Marriott, panic sets in. Over 1,000 people are crammed into the lobby. Judith Wilson is among them. She describes a scene that feels completely surreal. People weeping silently, others screaming into their phones, couples holding each other as if it might be the last time. The detonations keep coming, regular, relentless. Plumes of smoke are visible through the windows. Warning sirens wail outside. Nobody knows exactly what is happening or where the next strike will land. There is no bunker in the hotel, no secured safe room. The staff does what it can, setting up sofas in the corridors, handing out blankets, trying to hold the atmosphere together. Judith watches the hotel employees stay composed and tells herself she has to do the same. She compares the feeling to turbulence on a plane. As long as the flight attendants stay calm, you convince yourself to stay calm too. But inside, she is falling apart, because she has just received the message she feared most. Her husband, Doug, 58, went to the emergency room that Monday with back pain. Back pain. Something that sounds completely ordinary, the kind of thing you chalk up to stress or a bad night's sleep. Except the doctors immediately see that this is not about his back. It's his heart. Doug has severe heart disease, with a buildup of blockages that had never been diagnosed. His blood pressure spikes to alarming levels. He is rushed to the John Muir Health Walnut Creek Medical Center, and surgeons schedule an open-heart procedure, a triple bypass. Judith learns all of this from a hotel room in Dubai, with bombs going off outside and no available flight home. She is the mother of 2 college-age sons. Those sons are at their father's bedside in California, while their mother is stranded on the other side of the world in an improvised war zone. Think about what that feels like. Think about receiving that news and being completely powerless, doing nothing but waiting for the explosions to stop and for a plane to finally agree to take off. The hours crawl by. By Monday, the atmosphere in Dubai shifts slightly. Residents and tourists begin to venture outside again. Judith even visits the Etihad Museum, a gesture that might seem strange, but it is actually the move of someone trying to keep their head above water, refusing to drown in total anxiety while waiting for news that could change everything. But the airports remain nearly paralyzed. Airlines cancel flights one after the other. Waiting lists grow impossibly long. Hundreds, possibly thousands of Americans are in the exact same situation, stranded, anxious, with no return date in sight. And then, on Wednesday, something shifts. A colleague of Judith's hears that a flight is about to depart. Judith doesn't think twice. She races to the airport, calls her travel agency from the car, and manages to secure the very last available seat on an Emirates flight to London Heathrow. The very last seat. When she arrives at Dubai International Airport, she is completely overwhelmed. She cries at the check-in counter, explaining her situation to anyone who will listen. Her husband is about to undergo a triple bypass. She has to get home. She has to be there. The airport is eerily quiet. There are very few flights operating. But this one is departing, on time, no delays. Judith boards the plane. The journey from Dubai to California will take roughly 28 hours in total. London, then a connection, 28 hours staring out of a window at the sky, thinking about Doug lying in a hospital bed, thinking about her sons handling it all alone, thinking about that blockage in her husband's heart that had been silently building for years and could have killed him without a single warning sign. Judith says she felt an enormous wave of relief the moment the plane crossed over central Saudi Arabia. She was airborne. She was moving. She was going home. It wasn't over yet, but at least she was heading in the right direction. What this story reveals is something we tend to forget when we watch conflicts unfold on the evening news. We see maps, geopolitical analysis, troop movements, and statistics. What we don't see are the thousands of ordinary civilians caught in the turbulence of history, people who were traveling for work, for a conference, for a meeting, for a weekend away, and who find themselves overnight in a state of absolute emergency, with no safety net, no reliable information, and sometimes no way to reach the people they love. Judith Wilson was not a soldier. She was not a journalist embedded in a conflict zone. She was a sales executive on a business trip, just like tens of thousands of other people every single week in Dubai. And within the space of a few hours, she became a woman who had to navigate a war zone to get back to her dying husband. She made it. Doug survived his surgery, but how many other travelers were not lucky enough to find that last seat on a plane? How many remained stranded for days, with no idea whether their loved ones were okay? How many spent those nights in hotel lobbies listening to explosions, with no reliable information, no evacuation plan, and no real concrete protection from their government? These are the questions worth asking. Not just the military maneuvers and the diplomatic statements, but the real human lives that get shattered in minutes when history decides to strike somewhere no one was expecting. Judith Wilson's story is just one of hundreds, and it reminds us, with brutal clarity, that behind every conflict there are ordinary people who are simply trying to find their way back home.